Hello everyone. Today we have our lecture 6 for our series, and today we will study about the trigonometric functions and the quadrants. So here I have presented a table, and you must be familiar with different values of angles taken by the trigonometric ratios. That is, when we have 0, 30 degree, 45 degree, 60 degree, 90 degree, 180 degree, 270 degree, sine, cos, tan, cosecant, cosecant, secant all attain a value, right? So, have you ever wondered how these values have been generated, or how do we write? Simply, we write these values against these particular trigonometric ratios with the angles they attain. Let us now understand how we can just simplify our understanding on how these particular values have been come. Let us take this particular diagram. This is the circle where I have divided the circle into four equal parts. Now, this complete circle, we have studied that when we move around the circle, we see that it covers 360 degree around its circumference, or 2 pi radian. That means when we start from this point and cover an angle of and come to the same point, we have 360 degree of angle. So if I have divided this particular circle in four equal parts, then definitely we can divide it by 4 and we get each part as 90 degree. So this will be this will be 90 degree, and again adding 90 plus 90 we get here 180 degree. Here we have 270 degree. Here we have 0 as we started from this point, or 360 degree. Let us now understand what exactly happened and what are quadrants called. So I divided the circle into four equal parts. This is our first quadrant, this is our second quadrant, this is a third quadrant, and this is a fourth quadrant. So simply, quadrant is nothing but 1/4 of this particular circle. And since the circle is 360, we easily divided it into four parts with 90 degree of this particular angle will be 90 degree. So we easily divide it into four equal 90 degree parts. We have studied sine theta, cos theta, tan theta, cot theta, cosecant theta, secant theta as the ratios of sides of a right angle triangle. This was perpendicular upon hypotenuse. Cos was base upon hypotenuse. Tan was perpendicular upon base. Then we have cot as base upon perpendicular, that is also equal to 1 upon tan theta. Then we have cosecant theta, that is our hypotenuse upon perpendicular, also equal to 1 over sine theta. Then we have secant theta, and that is hypotenuse upon base, and we have this as 1 upon cos theta. So in this very table, we see some of the very basic angles: 30, 45, 60, 90, 180 and 270, right? So these angles have different values, and we will see how we can obtain these values at the different angles. If we again see this circle, we can take two more values here, that is 30, 60, and one we can take here as 45. Let me mark them: 30°, 45° and 60°. I'll be talking about the only first quadrant currently, so that you can understand the things, and later on we'll move to the full circle and different other quadrants. If we divide the circle if we divide the circle from here, let me just take a different color. So if we divide the circle like this, if I join these points here and bisect first and third quadrant, similarly I take another line and bisect the second and fourth quadrant, what do I see? I find a square, right? So let me just extend this line. Okay, so now what do I see? When I bisect this particular quadrant, that is our first quadrant, there will be an angle of 45° here, right? Since this complete quadrant is of 90°. Now let me just draw, let this point be P. Let me just draw a vertical or a perpendicular from P to x-axis. This is our x-axis. Let this point be A. Similarly, let me draw a perpendicular to y-axis and let this point be B. We saw in our last lecture this is sine theta and this is our cos theta. Now, what do we see when we have drawn a angle theta that is of 45°? This will exactly bisect. So line AP will be equal to line BP, and thus AP will be equal to the parallel and opposite of BP, that is OA. This means a sine theta value is equal to cos theta. Let us arbitrarily take it as 1 unit, or simply 1. This is a trigonometric ratio, right? So let this length be 1 unit. Sorry, this will be 1 unit. So let AP is equal to OA be 1 unit, implies if what did we saw? Sine theta is equal to our, let us first calculate the value of our hypotenuse, that is OP, that will be under root of perpendicular AP, that is 1 square, plus OA square, that is a base, so we get the value here under root 2. That means this value we have is at under root 2, this is 1 and this is also 1. So sine theta is equal to perpendicular upon hypotenuse, that is 1 upon root 2. Cos theta will be base upon hypotenuse, that is again 1 upon root 2. And let me write here 45 since our angle is 45. Then let us talk about tan 45 degree, which is perpendicular upon hypotenuse, or sine theta upon cos theta, that is perpendicular we have is 1 and this will be base. Base we have 1, so this will be simply a value 1. Then if we talk about cot 45 degree, this will be base upon perpendicular or inverse of tan, that will be again 1. Then cosecant 45 degree. Cosecant 45 is again 1 upon sine 45. We calculate, so this will be simply under root 2, and secant 45 to 1 upon cos 45, that is under root 2. Also we saw that, do we have the same values? Here we were calculating for sine 45. Sine 45 is 1 upon root 2, cos is 1 upon root 2, tan, cot, and all the values are verified. So our calculation is perfect. Let us now move to our second calculation for 30 degree. I'll quickly remove the unrequired content. Okay, now let me draw this particular angle at 30 degree. So this will be our 30 degree. Let this point be again P. If we draw similar line opposite to this particular 30 degree in negative direction, we get this angle also 30 degree. And let us draw a straight line joining P and let this point be Q, right? So this will be our construction. We can see third angle. Let this point be A again, and this is our X. So angle AOP plus angle AOQ, that will be 30 plus 30, that gives us 60 degree. So for the time being, let us write here 60 degree. Suppose this is an equilateral triangle. Suppose this is an equilateral triangle. In an equilateral triangle means all sides are equal and all angles are also equal. So this will again be 60 degree and this will be 60 degree. Let us consider again lengths OP is equal to OQ is equal to PQ as 1 unit. Therefore, what will be the length of AP? AP will be PQ over 2, that is 1 by 2. Let us mark this as 1 by 2 and let me remove the unrequired values or the unrequired construction. This angle we have as 30 degree. We have got this value as half, and this was a 1, right? This was a 1 unit OP. Let us now calculate the value of OA by the Pythagoras theorem. That will be AP square plus OA square is equal to OP square, means OA is equal to under root AP square. AP square is 1 upon 2. Sorry, we'll take the OP square. That will be 1 square minus, what do we need to take again? We need to take the value of AP, that is 1 by 2. So we get here 1 minus 1 by 4. This is under root 3 by 4. And this is under root 3 by 2. We get this value as under root 3 by 2. Now we have all sides of this triangle. Let us now calculate the trigonometric ratios, whether they fit in the table or not. Sine 30 degree is equal to perpendicular, that is half, divided by our hypotenuse, that is 1. So we have the value half. Cos 30 degree base, that is under root 3 by 2, divided by again hypotenuse, that is 1. So value is under root 3 by 2. Tan for tan 30 degree, that is perpendicular upon base, half divided by r under root 3 by 2, that is 1 by root 3. Then we have cot 30 degree, that is inverse of tan, or we can make it as base upon hypotenuse, that will be under root 3, sorry, base upon perpendicular under root 3. Then we have cosecant 30 degree, that is hypotenuse. Hypotenuse is what? 1 over perpendicular 1 by root 2, or 1 upon sine 30 degree, that is, sorry, that will be 2, will be simply 2. And here the value for secant 30 degree will be again 1 upon cos, or that will be hypotenuse over base, and that will be 2 by root 3. Let us verify in the table. For 30 degree, we have 1 by 2, cos is under root 3 by 2, tan again is 1 by under root 3, cot under root 3, cosecant 2, and secant 30 degree is 2 by root 3. So we have the values for 30 degree. Let us now see the values for 60 degree. Let me remove the unrequired part. Now let me join the line with 60 degree, that is here we have this value as 60 degree. Let me draw the perpendicular here and hypotenuse here. Now we see, let me just tell you first. This will be a 30 degree, right? We will do one thing, we will draw a 30 degree angle here and join this part. So taking this 1, 1, 1, value of our, since this is again an equilateral triangle we see in the last part. So if we take this value as, let this be P dash and Q dash, or let this be point P, let this be Q. So what will be YP? That will be half. And again we get, let this OY we get as, we remove this, yeah. So here, right, we again use the Pythagoras theorem. So let this point be B. So we will get OB by the Pythagoras theorem. That will be OB square plus BP square is equal to OB square. This means again we have the value OB is equal to under root 1 minus half square is under root 3 by 2. Same value we get which we calculated here. Now this is perpendicular from P to B, and if I drop a perpendicular on x-axis, let this point be A, right? So OB will be equal to under root 3 by 2, and this half will be again equal to this value half, right? So this is an opposite sides of a rectangle. Now we have obtained the sides of all three. We have obtained the values of all three sides. Let us now quickly calculate sine 60 degree, that is under root 3 by 2 divided by 1, that is under root 3 by 2, cos 60 degree, that is base upon half divided by 1, base upon hypotenuse 1 by 2, tan 60 degree, this is perpendicular, that is under root 3 by 2 divided by our base, that is under root 3, and cot 60 degree, that is 1 by root 3, or simply the inverse of our tan. Finally we need to calculate the values of cosecant theta and cosecant 60 degree and secant 60 degree. So that will be the inverse of our sine, that will be 2 by root 3, and this will be 2. Let us now see whether the values are matching in the table. So we have 60 degree, sine 60 degree is root 3 by 2, cos is half, tan is root 3, cot 1 by root 3, cosecant 2 by and root 3, and secant 2. We have calculated for 30, 45 and 60 degree. Let us now move to the other values and complete the table. So let me remove the unrequired construction. Therefore, let this be a 1 unit value. Now sine 0, that is perpendicular upon hypotenuse, is 0. Cos 0, that is base upon hypotenuse, is 1. Tan 0, that is perpendicular upon hypotenuse, that will be 0. Cot 0, that will be 1 upon 0, that is undefined. Cosecant 0, that will be 1 upon sine, that is again undefined. Cosecant, sorry, we left with the secant, so secant 0 is again 1 upon 1, that is 1 upon cos, that will be 1. Let us now compare the values. We get sine 0, cos 1, tan, cot, cosecant. As you can see in the table are same what we calculated. Now let us move to the 90-degree part. The 90-degree will be opposite to what we did for the 0. This means if this angle tends to 90 degree, this means 90 degree, our base, right, this is a perpendicular, the base part will tend to 0. This means that value of base, that is will be 0, and perpendicular, that will be overlapping our hypotenuse, so the value will be equal. This means again sine 90 degree, that is our perpendicular upon hypotenuse, will be 1. Cos 90 degree, base upon hypotenuse, 1. Tan 90 degree, perpendicular upon base, that is undefined. Cot 90 degree is equal to inverse of tan, that will be 0. Secant 90 degree, inverse of cos, that will be, sorry, this will be 0, I wrote wrongly. 1 upon 0, that will be again undefined. And lastly, we have cosecant 90 degree, that is, we are left with this sine value, so that will be 1 upon sine, that will be again 1. Again, let us see in the table. Sin 90 we calculated 1, cos 90 0, tan not defined, cot 0, cosecant 1, secant not defined. Now let us move to the other angles which are mentioned in the table, that is 180 and 270. If we take this complete angle, right, this will be forming 180 degree. Now what do we see here? If this is theta, this is our perpendicular and this is our base. Therefore, when this will be tending to here, right, what do we see? The value is consistently coming in the opposite quadrant, right? And this, this is 180 degree, this will be again moving in the second quadrant. So this value will be in the negative direction, and this will be same, right? If say let this angle be 180, right? So what do we see at 180 degree will be the opposite case, right? So minus means our base has been in negative direction, but what is happening to the perpendicular? Perpendicular is almost diminished, and our hypotenuse will again be the overlapping the base, right? So our base is equal to hypotenuse again, but this will be negative. Base will be negative, right? And our perpendicular would be 0. Let the base will be 1 unit. So what would be the hypotenuse? That will be under root minus 1 square plus 0. That will be 1. This will be our hypotenuse. Therefore, sine 180 degree is equal to 0 upon hypotenuse, that is 1 is equal to 0, cos 180, that will be base minus 1 upon 1, that will be minus 1, tan 180 perpendicular, that is 0 upon base, that is minus 1, that will be 0 upon 1, that will be 0. Then we have cot 180 degree, that is minus 1 upon 0. Anything upon 0 is undefined. Then we have cosecant 180, that will be the opposite of sine 1 upon 0, that is again undefined. And we have secant, that is opposite of cosecant, that will be minus 1, that will be 1 upon 1 upon minus 1, that will be minus 1. Let us see the values. Okay, so for 180 we have sine 0, cos minus 1, tan is 0, cot not defined, cosecant not defined, and secant is minus 1, right? Similarly, opposite case will happen for the values for the, okay, so we calculated for 270, we calculated for 180, now we will calculate for 270. What will happen for 270 again? Perpendicular, that means this angle, right? So let this be theta, or let this be 270. What do we see? Our baseline is diminished and our perpendicular is opposite in the negative y-axis. So our perpendicular this time will be minus 1, and our hypotenuse we can calculate perpendicular square plus base square, that will be minus 1 square plus 0, that is 1, right? So what will be the values? Values will be sine 270 degree, that is perpendicular upon hypotenuse, that means minus 1 over 1, that will be minus 1, cos 270 degree, that is 0 over 1, that will be 0, tan 270 degree perpendicular, that is our minus 1, and what is our base? That is 0, so that value is undefined. For cot 270 degree, we have 0 upon y minus 1, anything upon 0 is 0. Then we have cosecant 270 degree, that will be 1 upon sine, that is 1 upon minus 1, that will be minus 1. And finally we have secant 270 degree, that is 1 upon cos, so 1 upon 0, that is again undefined. Let us now see in the table whether our values are right. So for sine we calculated minus 1, correct? Cos 0, tan not defined, cot 0, cosecant minus 1, and secant not defined. Another value we have here is 360 degree. So we know that when we are completing 360, we are reaching the 0 point. So this values will be again repeating. Sine 360 will be 0, cos 360 will be 1, tan 360 will be 0, cot will be not defined, secant will be not defined, and secant will be again not, secant will be 1. So this is how we obtain the different values, and I suppose it is enough for today. Tomorrow we will see how we convert different angles, right? And what is the relation? Like if we are have to convert cos, suppose we have a value intermediate, right? Suppose we have a cos value that is 135 degree. So it is not directly given in the table, or we don't have a direct value for this. So we will see how we can, with the help of the basic angles, that is 30 degree, 60 degree, 90 degree, 180 degree, 270 degree, probably what are the angles that are axis, these basic angles, how to convert them into different into these particular values, right? I'm left with the 45. So we will see how we can convert this particular value into the basic angles, and how we will be able to find the value of cos 135 degree or any random value. Let us now finish the lecture, and we will meet tomorrow for the further things. Hope you're doing fine, and do keep practicing, do keep clearing your concepts. Bye for today. We'll meet in the next lecture. Thank you.